Hey gang, this is a new one for me. I am sitting in front of my computer and I've actually got this camera on, which is a little bit scary. But at the same time, I figured why not post these podcast episodes on YouTube as well, so that you actually get to see me and we can kind of have a little bit of a discussion, have a little chat going. And today is going to be a bit of a freestyle episode because today I want to speak about something that is very near and dear to my heart. It is something that I I don't think I have spoken out publicly like this before, but I think it is time. I think it's time that we actually get to the bottom of this and that we find out all about my thoughts and the past that I've had with the equine therapy industry, or in general, the equine industry, but from an angle of being an equine therapist, because you may or may not know that I'm actually an equine therapist as well as a studied bachelor's and master's degree in equine science. I also did this course to accompany my studies and to become an equine sports and rehabilitation massage therapist, which back then I thought was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I loved the fact that I was able to help horses because, in general, I think if you've come across me before, or if you've met me before, I think the one thing I always want to strive for, and I always do strive for, is trying to help horses. And the one way to help horses is by helping the humans connect with them. And this is something that I've had to learn, and I've had to learn. Sometimes it felt like it was the hard way. And today I want to share that with you. I want to share with you how I had to learn this, what happened, and the insights and realizations that I've had from this. So first things first, I have to take you back about almost 10 years now. So we are in 2013, and actually 2013 I finished my bachelor's degree, yes. And then soon afterwards, it is 10 years ago, soon afterwards, I did this course. And I believe 2014, I started the master's degree. So I was kind of in between the bachelor's and the master's degree. And I was kind of looking for ways to add something of value to this repertoire of knowledge and skills that I had gathered throughout my undergrad degree. And I came across this lovely course, which I did in the UK as well. And they were amazing. I mean, they taught me so many things, and everything I felt already by that point is what they kind of gave me the words and specific techniques to go along with that. And I always had this feel for horses. I always had a specific feel for horses that I think made me I think everybody is unique in that sense, but it was something that was unique to me in that way. And whilst everybody else was kind of going for the sports massage therapy, I was going for the slower rehab therapy that was kind of helping the horses to downregulate and to calm the nervous system again, and to feel relaxed and comfortable and confident in those situations. And I absolutely loved that. And that seemed to be like, the tutor, she always said that was my special skill. So I was happy about that. Happy about helping horses. And as soon as I finished that and also finished the master's degree, 2016, I was taking all of this on board and I was starting to work with it. And I started Science for Soundness in 2014, believe it or not, and really wanted to, back then already, help horses feel more comfortable, feel more confident, like I just said, and help owners actually understand what their horses need at any given moment in order to feel that. Back then, I didn't realize that it would crush me in a way, but we'll get to that. I did work with a lot of lovely clients, but you always, if you're working with horses and humans, you always have some people who you see every week, every month, and then you have others who will see you once and never again. Because this is what I've come to realize. You meet people and you meet people who genuinely, I mean, I don't want to say that I don't want to say that people don't like their horses and don't care about them. I don't think that's truth. But what I do feel is that some owners have a wider understanding and a broader understanding of who their horse is as a personality, and others who don't, others who just see the riding entertainment aspect in the foreground. And then, yes, the horse needs treatment because once a year you have to have that done. And it's a massive like check behind. And when it's done, that's done. And that's good. And that was really frustrating to me because at some point there were a few horses I saw more regularly, and I could kind of feel and I could see. I mean, when you're working with your hands on an individual, and you feel so much with those hands once you've trained them to actually pick up on these things. And it's really hard to see the same patterns erupt over and over. And even if you tell the owner, look, I don't think this saddle is fitting very well, there is a huge pressure point here and there, and your horse clearly has some tension or even muscle atrophy in that area. We need to do something about it. And they won't. That's really upsetting. And it really crushed me at some point. It really crushed me to a degree of, I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this. And it took me a while. It took me a long while, actually. I worked as an equine sports and rehabilitation massage therapist for, I believe, 6 or 7 years, until I actually don't do that. Well, I don't do that anymore. I actually didn't do that anymore at some point. I stopped working as a therapist, or solely as a therapist, because I realized you cannot help the horse if you do not get the owners to understand what the horses need. And if they understand rationally, does not mean that they automatically feel their horses. And this is why I talk about connection and horse-human connection and feel and intuition and all of these things, because if people are constantly rationally in their mind thinking about the next exercise or the way they should conduct this and that, and the way the horse should carry themselves and the way they should sit and hold the reins and all of that, we're always like stuck in the head. We're not feeling, we're not becoming this unity, this like unity, this like, there is no togetherness as such. There is like, I'm thinking, you have to do. It's a bit like that. So I always felt there was a separation of some kind. And I felt really frustrated at some point. And it actually hurt me to see horses coming back to me every 6 months with the same problems, and sort of the sparkle leave their eyes, and the horses not being physically there, completely dissociating from the situation. I've spoken about dissociation a lot recently, and today's episode is certainly not about that. But what I do want to say is that horses have feelings, I mean, that might or might not come as a surprise to you, but they are not devoid of feelings. They do feel something. And if we do not make sure that we also take care of their emotional health, of their physical health, of their, mental and even spiritual health, I mean, we need to make sure that our concept is holistic enough to encompass all of these things, because they are not just designed to be for entertainment purposes. They're not designed to be here to be ridden. Horses are actually, in fact, not designed to be ridden. If you look at them, it makes no sense at all. But it's just like one thing. So yeah, it really crushed me at some point when I kept seeing the same characters coming back, and nothing changed for them. And I just couldn't believe that people, even after being told, even after me teaching them, say, look, put your hands here, feel this, see what you think. Even if they say, oh yeah, I feel that, they still wouldn't change their ways. And that kind of brings about this much bigger problem that I see, and that's the whole system, the whole equine industry. And even if we look at the modules and the content of the lectures of my degrees, some of this stuff is so old and outdated and traditional in a way. It makes no sense with the current standard of knowledge that we have. And to be the person, to be called out as a person to help the horse, knowing that you cannot help them because they're still stuck in that system, is really, really frustrating. And it's really heartbreaking. And to see the sparkle leave their eye, to see how dissociated they are in situations that require them to be present, and to just see how they kind of, you know, just coping with the situation, but not thriving in any way, shape, or form. That is crushing. It's heartbreaking. And so I actually stopped, ever since we moved to this place here, I actually stopped working as an equine therapist. I was making an effort to give my horses this holistic, you know, everything I'm saying about this holistic approach, this holistic soundness, the view that I have, I wanted to live that. So I created this paddock paradise. I created a space that my horses could feel safe in. I created a space that would enable them to have access to free movement and food and shelter and friends and, you know, all of that. And not just limit them to a specific type of forage, but actually offer them choices. And what I could see was my horses were thriving, and they don't need me to do anything with them because they have a life that is worth living. They have a life that is beautiful and full of so many amazing moments, and full of, you know, they have such a strong bond. My herd has such a strong bond. It's absolutely beautiful. But then, you know, everything else is on top. Everything else that adds to it, such as the training or riding, the interaction that I have with them, just adds on top of that, and therefore is enriching. It's not serving the purpose of making my horses feel happy, because otherwise they're just stuck in a stable for 23 hours a day. That's not what I wanted for them ever. And none of them lived in that kind of scenario ever. But, you know, I wanted to live what I'm talking about. And I couldn't be a therapist at the same time. I couldn't live this and talk about this, and on the other hand, treat horses that don't get the same, don't actually experience the same kind of freedom that my horses get to experience. And it felt like there was this discrepancy, and I couldn't make it fit anymore. And so I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice to be for the horse, but not serve a lot of clients. And usually I would say that the clients are the horses, but I wasn't serving them because I couldn't serve them. I couldn't serve them in a way that they needed to be served. And the owners just wanted to have that check in that box, you know, physio, therapist, whatever they call out once a year. That's that done. And that's not going to solve any of the problems. That's not going to make the horses' lives better. Therefore, I made a choice, and it was a tough choice. And yes, I still have these aspects that are influencing my work. So I'm still, whenever I'm working with the client, and so the horse and the owner, I allow this to influence the interaction. I allow everything to kind of come together, but I will always look at the stabling situation. I will always look at the feeding regime. I will always also look at the tack, everything that has to do with equipment. I will always check that. And I will always look at the way they're actually treating them from a, let's say, personal point of view. So in between the horse and the owner, I mean. So I will always see how the owner is treating their horse. Are they respectful of them? Are they considerate of them? Are they giving them choices? Are they offering them situations and scenarios that set them up for success rather than failure? Because that is something that happens so many times. And what I've come to see is that it takes some time, and it's probably not as, you know, it doesn't make this check box done thing. And we can't say, okay, therapist has been out to check. But what we can say is we're helping somebody on a new path, because this whole, I mean, life is a journey. And this horse-human connection, the way that you start to meet your horse and treat them and evolve with them. That is a journey, and it has been a journey for me. It has certainly been a steep learning curve at some point, and the steepest it's actually been once I was in my degree, when I thought knowledge was giving me everything I needed, and my horses were like, well, no, that's not what we need. That's all fine and well, but it's not what we need. So, you know, coming out of that undergrad really did something for me, because my horses showed me what they needed, and they brought me on this whole new path. They gave me the opportunity to learn and to evolve and become the person I am today with the horses. So, you know, long story short, this realization that as long as something is just an item on a list that needs to be checked off, there is nothing I can do. There is nothing you could probably do for them. And I mean, I'm not saying don't be an equine therapist. That's not what I'm saying. Like I told you, I still use those elements, and I incorporate them into my routine, into the work that I do. And, you know, everything you see and hear from me will always have those aspects included. But at the same time, don't base everything solely on that, and don't, you know, don't forget that you have a heart. I mean, that sounds really probably a bit woo-woo, but, you know, if instead of just checking something off a list and have an item ticked off, just like think about it and feel into it and tune into it. Because if you are tuning into it with your heart, like there is no way you could go, okay, send that horse back out on maybe into a competition with unfitting tack and a person who doesn't connect with them. There is no way you would do that with a good feeling. And, you know, I think I'm kind of trying to appeal to that. I'm trying to give you a different viewpoint. But yeah, so I am an equine therapist, but at the same time, I'm an equine scientist. And this therapy aspect is just that. It's an aspect, and it gives me insight and information about the horse. It also gives me background info that I might need in order to make an educated decision on something else. But it's not what I'm doing anymore. And this is a dilemma that I think a lot of professionals are facing in the equine industry, because as long as we send those horses and owners back out into this system that doesn't regard their uniqueness and the way that the body works, you know, and we just, as long as we just see them as some item that needs to be serviced in order to then be sent back out on the track, metaphorically speaking, but kind of works. As long as we do that, like there is not going to be much improvement. And hopefully, if you've sat through all of this now, if you're listening on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, or if you're here on YouTube, actually watching me have a monologue, you know, hopefully what you can take away from this is to have heart in those interactions with horses, to always check back in, like what purpose does this serve? Does it actually serve the horse, or does it solely serve the human, or even not the owner as such, but maybe the equine industry? Just try and tune into that, and tune into like what you really feel, not what you think you should feel. So try and do a bit of both. Try not to get stuck in your head, but maybe allow your head to have a say, but also listen to that heart of yours, because like nobody would willingly send out a horse in pain again, full stop. Like hopefully there's a hope. That's kind of what I'm hoping anyway. I hope that people wouldn't want to deliberately hurt animals, but I know it happens, and I had to make my choice. I have chosen my path now. I'm trying to educate people, and I see that as one of my main missions now, to offer education to people who want to try a different approach, and to not tell them this is the only way that you can do things and that's the only other way you can do that. I'm holding space for everyone, and I'm holding space for all of it, and everybody's allowed to evolve and be on their own journey. I'm not here to say what that has to look like. And hopefully, I hope, I really do hope that the equine industry will be more open and welcoming in that sense, and will consider the horse more and more, rather than just using and abusing them in a way. And I would love for, equine science degrees or other degrees, or, any kind of formal education that has some animal aspect. And I would love for a different approach. I would love for like a common sense approach also, and less of this traditional. I mean, traditions are all fine and well. We can all dress up nicely and compete and all of that, but let's also check on the tack. Let's also check on the horses, emotional health. Let's also check on their background. Are they actually kept in an environment where they can thrive? Let's make sure that everybody knows the basics, and the basics are not that hard to achieve. And if all of that is given, then, therapists can come in and actually make a difference, because it's not just the one-off once a year item ticked off the list, but it will actually add value to an environment that is already allowing the horse to thrive, and it will make all the difference for them. So there we go. There's my little monologue on the topic of why I'm not an equine therapist, solely an equine therapist anymore, why I chose not to make that my main profession anymore, and why education is so important, because otherwise I don't think we'll ever change that system. And it's got to start somewhere. So by each and everyone making their own choices, eventually I'm sure it will have that ripple effect, and it will all end with the horses and for the horses. So here we are. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sticking around, for being here, and for sharing this journey with me. It really, truly does mean a lot to me. And I know I keep saying this, but it's the truth. So I'm really, really grateful you're here. Take care, and I'll see you next time.